The amount of time it takes to get the wool worked through the fabric is all dependent on a lot of different factors. If you are a fairly fast roller, if you need to take a lot of breaks, that can slow it down. The amount of times you pick up and reposition the tool to make sure it's not sticking. The amount of wool and the type of fabric. So you can see that it really isn't a definitive answer when you want to know how long it takes. The only definitive thing is to do the actual test of looking at the fabric after you feel like it's been long enough. And what you're going to look for is some of the wool coming through the opposite side of the fabric. And how you do that is by drying off a part of it, and then you take it to a light source and you angle it away from your eyes this way, and you look just at the surface, and you should be able to see tiny little hairs of the fabric, of the wool coming up through the fabric. Now, it's going to be real difficult to show this on camera. So the best way I can describe it is by saying that it's the tiniest little halo coming up through the fabric, and to look at it against the light is the absolute best way to know that you're ready for the next step. You can switch to hot soapy water at this point because you're going to want some shrinking to happen. I just went ahead and microwaved that same water I had before, and I'm going to add it to the fabric. And depending on how much control you want over the shape is how long you do this next part. If you want the edges to be real stabilized, you will rub lightly on the edges. You're going to rub lightly in the direction you want this to shrink, and how much control you want over it can be done right here, flat, on the table with the hot water. If you want it to be completely random and you want it to just go whichever way it wants to go, then you can take it right to the sink and start scrubbing it against itself and throwing it in the sink. And that will cause the most shock and the most random placement of the wool. Alright, so here we are at the sink, and you run some hot tap water on your project. Now, if you really, really want it wrinkled and small and shrunk hard, you would take this fabric and scrub it against itself and really give it some muscle and really give it some random grabs and pushes and pulls. I actually want this to be kind of square. It's going to be a scarf, so I don't want it to shrink too much. It's already only about 6 feet long to begin with. So what I'm going to do is just gently rub it, give it some hot water, rub it some more, and in order to really get that neat ruching effect, I'm going to have to at least shock the fibers a little bit by keeping the most of the water in the cloth and letting it drop in the sink, letting the weight of the water help with the process. You will find the amount of throwing and rinsing and scrubbing will affect the amount of wrinkling in your scarf. Project. If you want it even more randomized and you don't want a square, you certainly don't have to fold it up. You can just leave it in a bunch and then just throw it in different angles, and it will stretch and go on its own in every direction. That's not what I'd like to achieve today, so I will be trying to keep it in a nice, neat package. So when you feel you've got it to the point of wrinkling as far as you'd like to have it, you give it a good thorough rinse with hot water. As hot as you can stand. Squeeze it out and then switch to cold water. After you've rinsed it in cold water very thoroughly, you will soak it in a solution of 1 quart of cold water to 1 tablespoon white vinegar for 15 minutes or longer, and then re-rinse it in cold water to get the vinegar out. Here's the finished scarf, lying on the table where the original tape lines were to show you the amount of shrinkage.